On this episode of the Authors Exchange, we sit down and talk with Brooke Jones, author of Why Are There Monkeys?
You were very clear in the book about the I'm not going to say the gender assignment that you gave the voice or how you interpreted it. But I got to tell you, one of the things that I really felt when the way you described it, I sounded kind of like George Burns, and he did those.
God is good. Why is there so much evil? And he gave me a perfect answer that I'd never thought about. I said, people have a hard time believing in the devil's existence because there's so much good. That one brought me up.
The Authors Exchange. Your host, Captain Christopher German. Brought to you by The Charted Life. And sponsored by Whither We Tend, a novel by Captain Christopher German. Welcome to The Authors Exchange.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am Captain Christopher German, and you are watching The Authors Exchange, the best half-hour conversation you're going to have on the web, and it is all about authors connecting with readers. We've had an entire season of amazing authors and amazing books, and we're trying to get them out to the world to read these books because, quite frankly, they need to be read more, and we need to read more as a nation, don't we? That's something America needs to do more, to read more. We would be happier, healthier people if we did read some more, and that's some of the things that are going on in these books that we've talked about this season, not least of which the one we're talking about here today, because this is a conversation that you're going to want to hear because this woman has been to incredible places around the world and beyond the world, and that's what this whole book is about, and it's called Why Are There Monkeys and Other Questions for God? So, before I tell you any more about this book, let me read you this incredibly funny readout of what I got about her, and then we'll introduce you to the lady. How about that? This is Brooke Jones. As a morning radio personality and political satirist in Los Angeles and San Francisco, Brooke Jones was written about in newspapers, quoted by at least one Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist, invited by Johnny Carson to be a guest on The Tonight Show, and dubbed LA's funniest lady by the now-defunct Los Angeles Herald-Examiner. Ms. Jones insists that there is no connection between the Herald-Examiner, glowing endorsement of her talents, and the paper's eventual demise. The dead newspaper could not be reached for comment. After waging and finally winning a lengthy battle with breast cancer, a battle that cost her what she shamelessly refers to as her bodacious tatas, Brooke turned her attention to her favorite pastime, skewering knuckleheads, nincompoops, and nimrods with her satiric Camp Meme Day comics, facebook.com/Camp Meme Day, and her blog, whatif.blog. Between her line of decidedly twisted greeting cards, card-barred greetings, available online at zazzle.com/the card outlet, her alter ego, I'm a Crone, the gypsy crone queen of Snarklandia, 4 books and 1 feature film, each in varying degrees of finishedness, Brooke has been staying so busy that the love of her life no longer remembers what Brooke looks like, considering the toll advancing decrepitude has taken. That's probably a good thing. I disagree with that completely. Published as it was in the time of COVID, a time of unfathomable loss, sorrow, and anguish, it is the author's most heartfelt hope that her divine experience will bring comfort and a few laughs to all. Brooke donates a portion of every sale of her greeting cards and her newly published memoir, Why Are There Monkeys and Other Questions for God, to the Breast Cancer Research Foundation. Now, without further ado, please let me introduce you to Brooke Jones. Brooke, tell us about your book.
What a wonderful introduction, Chris. It couldn't have been better if I'd written it myself. Oh, wait, I did write it myself. Okay, tell you about my book. Okay, this is my book, right?
Yes,
Why
yes.
Are the Monkeys and Other Questions for God? And I will give you a 1-sentence overview. Why Are the Monkeys and Other Questions for God is the absolutely true, deeply inspirational, laugh out loud, funny story of my near-death question and answer session with God. And I know that it's true because I was given proof that no one could deny. And by the way, if you think a conversation with God couldn't possibly be funny, oh, honey, you are in for such a big surprise.
Well,
okay, there's the overview of my book. Let's go from there.
okay. Well, it's not just that it is also funny, but it is also incredibly poignant at times in the book, and not least of which it's poignant because some of the subjects that you thought about asking God, it seems that you must have prepared for the interview before you died, because when you got there, you had some really incredible questions to talk about, everything from evolution to men versus women to, everything about religiosity and all the other good stuff out there. And you managed to get it all in to this 8-minute period of otherworldliness, is I will call it that. How about that? But so talk to me a little bit about, how did you first of all, how'd you get dead? And then how did you think of all these questions to ask?
Okay, I'll answer that backwards.
Okay.
When I was in college, the favorite pastime of virtually everybody I knew late at night when we should have been cramming for exams, we were sitting around talking about all kinds of things. And the most popular topic was, if you could talk to God, what would you ask? So I had spent years mulling over that very question. And then one night in November in 1975, when I was visited by a couple of friends, and I put those words in quotes, they decided that I should do something decidedly stupid. And as a result, I overdosed and I was legally dead for 8 minutes. Now, first of all, you got to understand that in that other world, some people call it heaven, some people call it other names, time doesn't exist. So although on earth I was legally dead for 8 minutes, I was legally dead and alive in the presence of God for an indefinable period of time. And once I got over the shock of where I was, once I first actually realized that, yes, indeed, I was in the presence of God, all these questions that I'd been thinking for years just kind of spilled out of me. And of course, the first lesson that I learned, and oh my, I learned a lot of lessons. The first lesson I learned, because when it happened, I didn't really even believe that God existed. My first lesson was, hello, yes, indeed, God does exist. And the second question I asked, is God male or female? God laughed. And he said, why does everybody ask me that? To which I said, you're asking me? Hello. He explained that he wasn't going to show me himself. He wasn't going to reveal himself to me because, as he said, my presence could be harmful to you. To which I said, hi, remember me, I'm dead. Harmful really isn't an issue here. So he said, okay, but he explained that he exists, as many people already understand it, in spirit. He does not have an actual physical body. So when I said, are you male or female? First thing I heard, and I'm backing up now, hearing wasn't really happening through my ears. Every sound that God made vibrated, and I felt every word, every sound, including his laughter, in every cell of my body. And when I had said, are you male or female? He said, in a voice that made Darth Vader sound like Mickey Mouse, he said, I am neither. And then all of a sudden I heard the most feminine, gentle, beautiful woman's voice I have ever heard. And she said, and then again, we are both. I would have dropped dead on the spot had I not already been dead. So that kind of would have been redundant.
Well,
and the questions went on from there. And yes, indeed, God does have a sense of humor, which at first I found shocking. And then in hindsight, I thought, well, of course, God has a sense of humor. Think about a platypus or a desert rain frog that makes a sound like my dog's squeaky toys, or a proboscis monkey, which looks like Jimmy Durante if Jimmy Durante were a monkey. And God made all of those things. So obviously God has a sense of humor. And his laugh, oh my God, God's laughter felt in every single square inch of me, like I was being hugged by a hug that was made of love. These are esoteric things that don't have words as we understand them. So I'm grappling with the closest words I can come up with, but try and imagine what a hug made of love would feel like. And that's what God's laughter felt like to me.
Wow.
And boy, I gave you a longer answer than you wanted.
Well, you punctuated it perfectly, so we understood what you meant. So, but
oh, that's good.
You know, you talk about the voice of God, and you were very clear in the book about the I'm not going to say the gender assignment that you gave the voice or how you interpreted it. But I got to tell you, one of the things that I really felt when the way you described it is I kind of sounded kind of like George Burns, and he did those God movies back in the day, and I kind of got that image in my head. Well, at least that sound in my head as it was talking through there was, and that's just my interpretation of it, I suppose. But you know, clearly the sound of God's voice has some kind of major impact because it affected you terribly, so didn't it?
Absolutely. It felt like every inch of me, every organ in my body, every part of me was being hugged by a hug that was made of love. And the other side of that, later on in the conversation, I was asking about this world of ours that is so full of hate. And this religion hates that religion, and this ethnicity hates, and certain white people hate certain people of color. And why, you know, if God is good, why is there so much evil? And he gave me a perfect answer that I'd never thought about. I said, you know, that's one of the reasons people have a hard time believing in your existence. And he said, really? Do people have a hard time believing in the devil's existence because there's so much good? That one brought me up to a startling stop, because yeah, if you don't want to believe in God because bad things happen, then how do you explain your belief in the devil when good things happen? And religion, by the way, is definitely something we talked about. But while we were talking about all the hatred in the world, I felt God cry. And the sound of God crying is the most horrible feeling I've ever experienced. And I hope I never, ever experience it again. It felt, again, because I wasn't hearing it, I was feeling the vibration of everything he said. The feeling of God crying was like breathing air that was made of broken shards of agony. And I hope never to feel that again. And that's one of the things that happened while we were talking about people of one religion hating people of another religion. And of course, we did talk about religion because, you know, there's Christians, there's Jews, there's Muslims, there's Hindus, there's tree worshipers, there's witch worshipers, but, you know, which worshipers are right and which religion is right? And is there only one religion? And then I asked, well, okay, God, what religion are you? And he said, I am no religion. And then the conversation about religion expanded to the point where he said, religion is an entirely man-made concept made by men for the sole purpose of controlling other men. And it has nothing to do with God.
When we come back, I think we're going to stay with this topic a little bit longer here, and we'll do the second segment. We'll talk about, because the book is about you and you're about the book, and it all comes together. So let's take a quick little break and we'll come right back. Stay tuned, because we're going to hear even more about why she wrote this book and what did her hopes are for the world with this book. And honestly, I got a couple of questions I want to ask her about what she sounded like when she was talking to God. Because how are you going to talk to God? Do you know how God's going to respond to you? Are you going to use your voice? Are you going to use your inside voice? Are you going to use your outside voice? Who knows? So we're going to ask her about how she talked to God when we get back from this break. So stay tuned. This is the Authors Exchange, the book today. Why Are There Monkeys and Other Questions for God? And the woman of the hour, Brooke Jones. Stay tuned. Come on.
When you watch horror movies in summer, do you cry out of angst for the Halloween season? Have you ever wondered what happens behind dark, spiderweb-encrusted curtains of a haunted house? Well, boy, oh boy, do I have a solution to all of your aching problems. The Foggy Jack Live Podcast, where the haunters meet the haunted. Each week on the show, you'll learn behind-the-scenes info of the haunt industry, the talk of the paranormal and cryptid industry. We also talk about horror movies, Halloween, and so much more. So please join us each week for this creepy, kooky, mysterious, and spooky Foggy Jack Live Podcast. And we'll catch you down in the pumpkin patch where the haunters meet the haunted.
The Foggy Jack Live Podcast is found anywhere podcasts are sold, distributed, or streamed. Please follow us on all our social media accounts at FoggyJack13. Please note this podcast is not responsible for explosive diarrhea, vomiting, erectile dysfunction, heartworms, or major migraines as a result of listening to the show.
Welcome back. This is the Authors Exchange. I'm Captain Christopher German. We have an incredibly interesting guest today. She's as lovely as she is fascinating to talk to, and her name is Brooke Jones, and her book is Why Are There Monkeys and Other Questions for God? Have you ever wanted to talk to God? Have you ever considered what you would say to God? Well, she had a whole litany of questions that she managed to fit into this little teeny tiny time when she had passed over to the other world, and she comes back to Earth, and she's got a whole book that she's telling us about right now. And you've tuned into a really cool episode, I think, of the Authors Exchange. So, Brooke, did you use your inside voice with God?
Oh, that's a question I have never thought about. Did I use my inside voice or my outside voice? And to tell you the truth, I don't really know. Because that's something that other people can tell you, but your own ears don't really necessarily know. And for all I know, God was hearing my questions telepathically. I have no idea.
And that's exactly the question that I'm having, is because a lot of times, like when I pray, I don't necessarily pray out loud, and God hears all prayers. Yeah. So, when you're talking to him, do you need to use your voice? I mean, I hate to say it, when you're dead, does your voice box still work, or do you find other ways to talk? Do you find other ways to communicate? What were the mechanics of that conversation a little bit?
Well, yeah, actually, now that I think about it, I was definitely using my speaking voice, because at one point, God used a phrase that used to be my mother's favorite phrase. He said, when I asked him a question, he said, "We'll see." And that used to be my mother's favorite expression. And every time my mother said it, it meant no. So I remember looking down, because if I was in heaven, then, Earth would be down. Right. So I was looking down and I said, "Hey, Mom, you think I'm going to call you this Sunday?" "We'll see." So, yeah, I was actually speaking, and God definitely made me laugh. And when he did, I was laughing out loud.
And I think that's actually one of the important takeaways of the book, is the fact that God laughs, and God finds humor in us. He finds humor in natural events. He finds humor in all sorts of different ways, and that's one of the advantages of being God, is you can do anything you want to do, and you can.
People have asked me if I was scared, because there I was in the presence of the creator who made everything that exists. Wasn't I absolutely terrified? And I sort of wondered about it at the time, and I really got to thinking about it when I came back. And I think I know the answer. I was not only not terrified, but I was more comfortable, more at ease than I've ever felt in my entire life. And the reason, at least the reason I came up with, was I was meeting God, and I couldn't meet him on his level. So he chose to meet me on mine. And his presentation as this warm, loving, gentle, and funny father figure shouldn't have been surprising at all, because, I mean, if Mr. Rogers could present himself as a warm, loving, amusing father figure. If Robin Williams could do that, well, then certainly God could, couldn't he? And that's exactly what he did. And that's why, no, I was not at all frightened.
Well, and it didn't occur to me to actually even think that you'd be frightened to talk to God. And I guess the reason why, I guess intimidated might be a word, but frightened would be the one thing I think that if you ran into the Almighty Father, who is the caring and compassionate man that, or person, non-person entity that you met on while you're over there, I would think that, I mean, he would do everything to try and make your passage over as comfortable and as warm and loving as he possibly could, because he's a loving God and he doesn't want to see you scared. He doesn't want to see you upset at his presence, unless
Absolutely.
he wants to see you upset at his presence. And
Yeah.
we know how that works. So
Yes. And I am of the belief, although this is totally just my conclusion based on my experience, not anything he told me, that his presentation to different people is different based on who they are and their expectations and their past and all sorts of different things. And it's entirely possible that when you, Chris, meet this being, which you will someday, you may feel something different. He may strike you as this avuncular family member that you get together with once a year who always makes you feel silly, or he is everything, and therefore he can present as everything or anything. And he chose to present to me in the form that he did, as a loving, caring, gentle, funny being.
Well, and the thing is maybe one of the reasons why he was in such a jovial mood is because he knew you understood laughter, and he knew your sense of humor, and he knew who you were going to be, and you were going to be LA's funniest lady down the line, and he knew that was there for you. So that's why he presented the funny face to you.
And it's entirely possible and makes perfect sense to me.
Well, we're all just spitballing here, but we're going to take a quick little break right now. Get the last couple commercials into this thing, because I think we're going to have some good sponsors that want to play with this. And I have to give a big shout out today to Brian the Wagstaff, who actually funded the purchase of your book for this show. We buy every single book. We do not ever take the book from, we don't take gifts. We insist on buying the book because you need the sales and we want to support the authors. So Brian the Wagstaff, thank you so much for supporting us on Patreon. And if you would like to get one of these books for us, you can just buy a vowel. It's $1.50. It's a real simple way to do. Join us on Patreon, and thank you, Brian. So let's take a quick break right now. We'll come back, and then we'll talk about you as the person, as the author, as the published person, all that kinds of good stuff. And I want to hear more about these cards that you're doing, and we'll talk about all the rest of the stuff that you got going on. Will you do that for me?
Absolutely.
Outstanding. Thank you for watching. This is Captain Christopher German, the lady of the hour. The author in charge right now is Brooke Jones, and the book is Why Are There Monkeys and Other Questions for God? Come right back after this break. This is the Authors Exchange. We'll talk to you soon. Have you heard about Whither We Tend? Whither We Tend is a novel for Americans about Americans. It takes recent political events and fictionalizes them and imagines what the world will look like in a couple of years and how things could turn out. It is my hope that they don't turn out this way. And that's why I wrote the book. And that's why I'm hoping you will read the book. Because I don't want these events to take place in our country. And this book is my aim at trying to do that. I know not everybody likes to read. So I made it an audiobook. And with the code that you get in this video, you can download the Whither We Tend for absolutely free and listen to it, all 7 hours of it, and enjoy it, I hope. I'm told it's pretty good. I've gotten lots of 5-star reviews, and I'm hoping you'll give it a 5-star review as well. Take a look at Whither We Tend, a novel about Americans for Americans. Hey there, thank you for getting to the third segment of this thing. I'm Captain Christopher German, and this is the Authors Exchange podcast, and it is all about books and authors, and we love to inspire people to tell their stories, put them in books, and send it out there. And there's never been a better time in human history to do that because we have so many independent authors out there. More than a million books came out last year, and this podcast is all about trying to find some of the more special ones and introduce you to them so that you will go out and find these books and read them, because that's what needs to happen. But this author has all kinds of things going on. And who is your publisher on this book?
Me.
Oh, you're self-published. Okay. Yes. Well, that's what. See, this is perfect. It ties in with our modus operandi. So you self-publish this thing, but you also you do memes, and you do the greeting card thing, and you do all kinds of good stuff. Talk to us about all your other side projects and what you're doing, and what are you going to be doing in the near future?
Well, I have a screenplay that I wrote many years ago that people are telling me to turn into a novel, which I may do. I am in the process of working with one of my best friends on an illustrated children's book that is just amazing because she's an amazing artist, but because this book is specifically geared at children to teach them that families look different, that mothers and fathers and parents aren't necessarily one white woman, one white man, or one woman, one man, that families come in all shapes and sizes. And this book is about a little bird called Fickle, who has lost his family and has made it his mission to help lost children find a new family. And it's a brilliant book, and I can't wait to finish it and get it out there. But I also do political satire memes, and they are called Camp Meme a Day, and they are available on Facebook at Facebook.com/Camp Meme a Day, all one word. And I have a line of greeting cards that I started 12 years ago, actually, while I was battling cancer. And the card line is Card Bard Greetings, and they're available at Zazzle.com/The Card Outlet. And I just recently created a new card. A dear friend of mine who I've known since I was 6 years old. I'm lucky that way. I have a lot of friends from my childhood who are still today my friends. He had a stroke recently, and he's a writer, and his entire left side is paralyzed, and he's left-handed. So he's got a lot of work to do in order to come back and be able to write, because he's a brilliant writer. So anyway, I designed a card for him and then posted it on my store, The Card Outlet, and I'm proud of it, and I want to show it to you. Chris, can you read that?
You think you have problems? Lift it up a little more. And talk, so it comes. You got to keep talking so the camera comes over to you.
No.
Well,
can you see it?
You think you had problems? I'm messing myself up. Read it to me, would you please?
Okay, it says, you think you have problems? I just had a peacock fly out of my ass. And you open it up and it says, you are definitely not done, and it is not yet time for you to exit. There must be at least 12 dozen people you haven't yet annoyed the hell out of. I sent this to him and I posted it on my store because we baby boomers are getting to the age where we're all going to have friends who have been through something like this, whether it's a cancer diagnosis or surviving a heart attack or a stroke. And now there's a card that you can send that will make people who have been through life challenging situations laugh. And science has actually proven that laughter is powerful medicine. So yes, there are a lot of my cards at the Card Outlet that are definitely funny. And I have 4 other books that I would love to publish, and all of them are nonfiction except one. And hopefully I will live long enough to be able to do that. But at this point in my life, this is what I live for: getting this into the hands of millions and millions of people, because I absolutely agree that, first of all, writing this, publishing it, and getting it out into the world is one of the reasons why I was sent back to the land of the living. And people say, do you have a mission from God? And no, I actually don't. That's Jake and Elwood Blues, the Blues Brothers. They had a mission from God. I have a responsibility to share every word God said to me, every question I asked, and every answer he gave, to publish it, and then do everything I can to get it into the hands of as many people as possible, because this book really can change the world. So this is everything I'm doing right now is about this book.
Well, and you know, I'm so glad that you came on this particular podcast to share this book as an independent author, because quite frankly, I think a book like this may not have been taken seriously at a different time in society. And we are at a time right now where you can take a stand and say what you've said and do what you've done without. I mean, imagine if somebody came out with a book like this during the Salem witch trials or something like that.
Yeah, they would have been drowned. Yes.
We're in such a fascinating time that we live right now, where you can do that and you can pass your words out there through a book and be independently published, and you don't have to get somebody to give you the blessing and say, oh, you know, you have to cut this out, and we didn't like the way you wrote that, and you know. So you're a great example of what an independent author can be and can do, and I'm so proud that I'm so thankful that you came on this show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, you're and you're invited to come back when you get those other books out there, especially that children's book, because I think we could have a lot of fun talking about a children's book on this podcast. But we've been going a long time now, and we're well past our half-hour mark, so I'm going to have a lot of editing to do. But I want to have you stick around with a little bit after we close this out, because we're going to do 10 questions with you. Are you willing to do that for me?
I would love to do that, but let me add one little thing.
By all means.
People can contact me either to tell me how my book affected them or to ask me questions, anything you want. If you go to my website, www.writtenbybrookejones.com, all one word, and Brooke has an E on the end of it. I'm very attached to my E. If you go to my website, there is a short video there that I called Her Story, that tells the story of my career in radio and my cancer battle and a whole bunch of stuff like that. And there is an audio sample of my book, and there's my book's trailer. And down at the bottom of the page, there's a contact form. And if you want to ask me a question or tell me how my book affected you, you can fill out that contact form on the bottom and then check the little box that says you're not a robot. Aren't those lovely? And then hit send, and I will get it and I will reply.
Well, I will make sure that I put that link into the YouTube video description, and I'll give you a little bit of a blurb at the bottom of this when I edit the whole thing together, and we'll make sure everybody can find your website and you can get out there. But if you're also on Amazon and all the other big places too, if they are.
Yes, my book is available. My book is available on Amazon, but because I'm such a fan of bookstores and because they're having such a hard time, I made a point of making it possible for you to call or go online to your favorite brick and mortar bookstore and order my book. So it's not just available on Amazon, it's available at any bookstore.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that's actually where we're coming with this program in the next season, is we're hoping to go into sides of bookstores and film these episodes in the bookstores with the books on sale in the bookstores with all kinds of good stuff. And we're also trying to get some book clubs involved with this, so that instead of me asking all the questions, we have people that have read the book, and we can have nice conversation and film the whole thing on Zoom and do it from remote regions of the world. And it's going to be a very exciting second season, but we're just coming up on the end of our season now, which is kind of sad. Single tear runs down my face. So we're going to wrap up this episode right now. And when you come back, we're going to when you come back with me, we're going to be after this episode, and we're going to be in bonus time. And that's when we're going to do 10 questions. So if you'd like to see the 10 questions, you got to go to patreon.com, and you got to find the Authors Exchange, and you got to check out 10 questions with Brooke Jones, because it's going to be a fun 10 questions. I'm pretty darn sure of it, because she's a funny, funny lady. I'm Captain Christopher German. This is the Authors Exchange. The book today. Oh, wow. I just totally blanked on my mind. Let's see the book one more time. Why Are There Monkeys? And Other Questions for God. And it is an incredible tale of a near-death, well, not near-death, actual death experience. She was dead for 8 minutes, but she got to ask an entire lifetime of questions to God in a really interesting conversation. Brooke, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Chris. I'm looking forward to doing it again.
Well, we'll make sure that happens. And you join us next time when we're going to be having a really, really cool author. I don't know who it is, and I don't know where they're coming from, and I don't know what their story is, but there's a new book every week, and I read each and every one of them. Thank you for watching The Author's Exchange. I'm Captain Christopher German, and that is a wrap for this episode. See you same bat time, same bat channel, next week, Fridays at noon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.